Hi, I'm Bob McVicker, and welcome to episode 6 of All About the Neighborhood. So today, here it is, the middle of June. We're at 23 Harding Street, and it's almost exactly 6 months ago this week that we were here doing episode 2. And you might remember we had a Christmas tree, and these beautiful walls weren't here yet. All that was here was studs and framing, and construction had just begun. But now, here we are, middle of June. The 23 Harding is almost finished and on the market for $559,900, so $560,000. I have a special guest today, my good friend and client, Adam Pottle. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Bob.
So Adam and I go back about 10 years, and we met one day, Adam, didn't we, in a cold call. You called me. Hadn't met you before, and you were interested in a 2-unit, not even a block from here. And you and I had about a 45-minute conversation, and just like that, you were all in, and you wrote an offer, and you were going to buy that house. So your passion for real estate, I'm sure, started a little sooner than that, but it's growing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, my original intent was to just buy a duplex and have someone else pay my rent. But the way things ended up going, it became way more than a hobby, and it became a big commitment with a lot of help from Bob.
Well, thanks, Adam. But I think by now we've done about 8 or 9 deals together, and we've got a few things lined up in the future. But for now, we're focused on 23 Harding, which is really, I believe, this is you've done some renovations, you've done some flips, but I think this is your first new build.
Yeah, I've done some pretty hardcore restoration stuff, but this is my first new build, and it's absolutely the right neighborhood to be doing it in. There's a lot of opportunity uptown for a really unique infill, and both single, multi-unit, and the population's growing every day. So it's the right spot to be in.
So here we are, it's built. This is your first new project, as you say. So now that it's ready and it's on market, what are you most excited about this particular home? What is it that you are most excited to have the public see and hopefully a buyer see?
Well, what I'm probably most excited about would be how much home we fit into what looks from the street as a fairly small footprint. Plus a garage, we've probably got around 1,300 square feet of living space, 3 bedrooms with en-suites, really cool open concept kitchen living room occupying the main floor, and a street facade that blends in so well with the neighborhood. Facebook commenters on your open house were under the impression you were lying and that it was an old home, which I thought was pretty funny.
It was pretty interesting. So I was here, Jake and I were here on Sunday. We did an open house on Sunday afternoon, kind of trying to get some traffic from the Queen Square Market. And it was amazing, number one, how many people we had.
Yeah.
But there was a handful of people who thought it was a renovation. There was a group of other people, as you just said, couldn't believe how much living amenities you'd packed into this, what is it, 21 feet wide? And
it's about 21 feet wide and just under 40 feet deep.
And 3 levels.
Yeah, 3 levels.
Yeah, and this spectacular backyard with a deck on the back.
Yeah, and the yard's about the same width as the house, and I think it's about 65 feet deep. So we took every advantage we could with the kind of long, narrow lot, and there aren't too many huge yards like this in the South End. They've either been infilled, or their houses are just packed as much in as you could, or the lots are shallower.
A lot of house, a lot of yard, a lot of things that people don't expect. So you bought this piece of land quite a while ago.
Yeah, I bought the piece of land. I was at Ziggy's in Montreal, and I was high on life after a great reno and a great sale. It was the Duke and Carmarthen that you both bought and sold for me, and I saw that this piece of land and another one across the street were up for sale, and this was, I think, 2 weeks after the new school's location was announced. So I thought I'd be crazy to not get those and sit on them and wait until the province had shovels in the ground.
So you found the land
Yeah.
just at the right time. you got a great deal on the land because the value of land hadn't popped yet in the neighborhood.
No, it was. It wasn't the $4,000 that everything was in 2012, but it was, in retrospect, a pretty solid deal. I probably could have argued a bit harder, seeing how it was the constraints of the site, but at the end of the day, it still about as good as you can get for an infill lot on such a great street.
Right. And so you've got this beautiful home now, but when you first bought the land, what did you think? What were you thinking, and what did you see? You probably didn't see what you ended up getting, right?
No, I'd always been thinking single family for the lot, but I was thinking more, traditional two-story townhouse, not thinking garage at all, and definitely not thinking the amount of living space that was able to fit in here.
Right. So it's really worked out.
Yeah.
So you were early in, as we said at the beginning. It's about 8, 9, 10 years since you and I met, and you've been doing things. So you've had vision and passion for the neighborhood going back a decade, long before a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon. What was it back then that really motivated you about the neighborhood? What did you see in the future?
Well, to be honest, the main thing that motivated me in the first place about living in the neighborhood was being able to walk to the pub instead of having to find a different form of transportation on the way home. And honestly, that's still kind of a big driving factor. Maybe not to drink beer specifically, but proximity to everything, the increased vibrancy in the neighborhood, and around here, especially in the summer, the Queen Square Farmers Markets, it's a great addition, and just kind of gradually watching everything from infill to the new school, new facades, down to new road and sidewalk infrastructure, creeping away from what people always just thought was uptown, further and further south towards Tin Can Beach has been really cool. And it's just the proximity to everything, the diversity of architecture, and the kind of real small scale density that's all over the neighborhood.
So it's 35 years since I moved here, and my first house was on Duke Street. And all my new friends, that lived in the suburbs thought I was, not thinking right, living in the neighborhood, period. And then after 5 years, I moved down to Mecklenburg, which was a few steps further south, and they really thought I, lost my senses. But now, as you point out, we're all the way down to St. James. New school's going on in St. James, which is actually a block south of where we're sitting.
Yes.
And Tin Can Beach has become a neighborhood destination icon. And there's some pretty significant development just about to get underway down there. So really, I think you saw the future, and you invested early, and this has really worked out.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't go so far as seeing the future, but I'm definitely an optimist, and I'd say things have worked out pretty optimistically so far.
No kidding. So I know it's always, I always say to people, the last thing you want to really do is try to guess who the owner, the new buyer is going to be if you're selling something. But nevertheless, I'm going to ask you, well, who do you think is the demographic for this kind of house?
Well, it's like I said, it's a lot of house. So demographic would be people either moving in from the valley who are finding it a little too either tedious of a commute or a little too silent out there. People moving in from other provinces who want to retain that kind of urban townhouse look. Maybe people downsizing. They've got a big sprawling ranch. Downsizing. They've got a big sprawling ranch home with half-acre yard. They still want a yard, and they don't want a condo, and they want to live close to where the services are. So,
but I think on the other end of the scale, it's exactly what a young professional couple working uptown who have a couple of children, young children, perhaps children under 5 who could go to the school, the new school, because the new school will be opening in about 2 years. So it's also built in that way that a family could very comfortably live here with a couple of children.
Yeah, especially with the yard. That's a big enclosed yard on a quiet street is an uncommon asset around here.
So we know the yard's 21 feet wide. How deep is the yard from the back of the house?
It goes back about 65 feet.
And it's lush and green. The trees are mature. It's really, really gorgeous back there. It's lush. and private and quiet. It's amazing back there.
Yeah, and you actually will hear a bit of bird song that's not the normal South End pigeons, which
True. Yeah.
they do their job, but it seems a bit more rural back there than it seems from the street side.
Yep. So, and just to repeat, it's 3 bedrooms, it's 3 full bathrooms, it's a half bath on this main living area. It's almost 1,700 square feet.
Yeah.
It's a big home.
Yeah, it's a huge home, and there's very little wasted space, not from a compact perspective, but there's almost no corridor space in the building. Everything's rooms, so the square footage is the actual square footage, not a maximalist number. Tons of storage space through the house. A lot of really cool, detailing work that we've been able to do, both the trim to the kitchens to everything. So,
Kitchen's beautiful. It's a large kitchen, and it's got walk out to the deck. It's where the barbecue goes, island, good for entertaining. The workspace in the kitchen is substantial. And I'm always about the kitchen, and can you get from the kitchen to a deck where there's a barbecue? And we have all of that here. So it's really amazing. So it's always been interesting for me, as we've developed this working relationship we've had now for years, how your passion for real estate generally keeps becoming more intense, how your focus becomes more intense, the amount of research and detail, all the digging into things that you do to really become an expert in real estate. And I remember the first day that you said to me, man, I want to do this all the time. I don't want this to be my side gig. I want this to be what I'm doing. So what do you see the future? What's next, and how do you see it going?
yeah, and I hope my boss doesn't hear that comment, but
Well, I hope he does. I hope he's watching. So yeah.
What's next is, unless any really cool renos pop up, and thanks to the hard work of people in St. John developing, those are becoming fewer and fewer. I'm all in on the Queen Square and Harding area. Our next project after this is across the street and about 2 lots closer to the square.
Like really right there.
Right there, and we're doing something very similar. Very similar style of construction. I would never do anything cookie cutter, so design-wise it'll appear a little different, but it'll be built same quality of finishings. And in the short term as well, hoping to do a 4-unit on Queen Square, and there's a few other irons in the fire that we've got, all of which a motivated person could throw a rock and hit.
That's right. Yeah, you're certainly committed to this neighborhood, that's for sure. And you see the opportunities. And I think what makes you special in the context of all of this is that there are others who have acted on their dreams as you have, but there's a lot of others who are still sitting on approved projects and not acting. So I really give you a lot of credit for acting.
Thanks, Bob.
You're an action guy, and you have a lot of passion. And for your first build, this is beautiful. You've really done a great job.
Thanks.
Yes. So I'm glad we had Adam today. I'm glad you got a chance to meet the guy behind the property. This is a beautiful home. We're at 23 Harding Street. The price is $559,900. It's 1,678 square feet. Has a garage, 3 bathrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, and this beautiful open concept living space. So I hope you will look it up. Go to bobmcvicar.ca. All the details are there. And we'd be happy to show you around in person. It's a beautiful home. Adam, thanks for being here today, and thanks for sharing your dreams and your vision and showing us this beautiful property.
Thanks, Bob, for having me on. Happy to talk.
It's a pleasure. We'll be back shortly with segment 2 after a short break. So here we are, market segment update of these numbers that I have. We receive them monthly from Canadian Real Estate Association, so these are developed by our national databases, and we get them, as you know, by neighborhood, all the way down the street if you want them. But today we're going to review the overall numbers for the St. John market, year to date, end of May, 5 months, so a good portion of the year. And then after we do that, we're going to have a quick look at neighborhood numbers here in the Uptown South End area. So in the month of May, year to date, 5 months, the number of sales are down 4.9%. But it's really based on inventory. There's still strong demand. I can tell you that in the month of May, I wrote an offer for a buyer client of mine in Milledgeville in a popular price range, home in a good neighborhood. There were 9 offers, and the house sold for $100,000 over the list price. So this is still going on. Multiple offers. The average sale price in St. John is still 3.5% to 4% over list, the sale price. So there's still more demand than there is supply, believe it or not. Although, year to date, the number of active listings at the end of May was 535, which is really not much, 5% more than last year. So sales were down 5%, but the inventory was up 5%. But there's still a lot of catch up. There's still a lot of people that have been looking for houses for months, some more than a year. So that's what that dynamic is all about. But the numbers that matter, there's only 3.7 months of inventory, which is a little higher than 3.4, which is what it was last year. But the average price, because everybody wants to know what's happening with prices, the average price for a residential property in St. John at the end of May was just under $375,000, which is 1.5% higher than last year. So we're creeping towards 400 very quickly. And again, as I said, the average price is still 3% over the average list. And the number of days on market, 23 days on market. Even last year was 24. So there's this odd dynamic between supply and demand, but nevertheless, demand is still greater than supply, and we're still not in a balanced market in the St. John market. Notwithstanding, as you know, the price of gasoline, wars in the world, all kinds of things that are making people uneasy, the price of food, real estate in St. John is still solid, and it's still not balanced. It is still indeed a seller's market. We'll just take a quick moment and look at the neighborhood results to the end of May. Sales are off a little bit from last year, but again, the average price is at $382,000 in the Uptown for residential sales. Average sale price is just about 1% over the average list price, and days on market still only 23 days. So to sell your house in Uptown St. John, 3 weeks. So if I look back on this report, back 10 years ago in 2016, it took on average 101 days, 3 months to sell a house in Uptown St. John, and now it's just a day or two over 3 weeks. So the market remains strong. We still need more inventory. There's still more still more buyers than sellers, and the market is strong. So it's a good time to list. We've got a beautiful property here, just built and on the market, brand new at $560,000. So happy to hear from you. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're watching the podcast. I hope you'll like it, comment, and follow us. And we'll look forward to seeing you next month when we'll have the whole first half of the year results to share with you. So have a great day. And
where's Jake?
where's Jake? Why am I here alone? This is a great New Brunswick anecdote, actually. Jake's gone fishing in the Miramichi. So how about that? So I hope you catch a fish, Jake, and we'll see you all next month, including you, Jake.